The Ravensbrück Asylum loomed in the moonlight like a spectral giant, its dark silhouette etched against the starless sky. The walls were shrouded in ivy, and the windows, shattered and dark, seemed to watch the world with 1,000 empty eyes. On this night, it would bear witness to a story of terror and discovery. Ethan Carter, a 28-year-old local historian and amateur paranormal investigator, was no stranger to the macabre. With a deep interest in the supernatural and a newly acquired high-definition camera, he set out to explore the notorious Ravensbrück Asylum. The stories surrounding it were chilling, whispers of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena. Ethan aimed to document his experiences and, if possible, debunk the myths that had captivated local folklore. Accompanied by his friends Sarah Davis and Mike Thompson, Ethan prepared for a night of exploration. Sarah, 26, was a researcher with a psychology background, and Mike, 30, was an urban explorer and photographer. They were eager to uncover the truth behind the asylum's dark history. As the trio entered the asylum, the heavy wooden doors groaned in protest. The lobby was vast and eerie, with a high ceiling adorned with cobwebs and shattered chandeliers. The walls were covered in faded murals depicting serene landscapes, a stark contrast to the asylum's current state. Ethan began setting up his camera and recording equipment while Sarah examined old documents found on a nearby desk. Mike, meanwhile, used his drone to capture sweeping shots of the lobby, its lens revealing the full extent of the decay. The atmosphere was thick with dust and an unsettling silence that made their footsteps echo louder than they would have liked. Sarah discovered a set of dusty journals hidden within the desk drawers. As she flipped through the brittle pages, she found detailed accounts of the asylum's history, including accounts of inhumane treatments and mysterious disappearances. One journal belonged to Dr. Leonard Gray, a former head psychiatrist known for his controversial methods. Gray's notes described experimental procedures intended to cure patients of their mental illnesses. These methods included sensory deprivation, extreme isolation, and unorthodox therapies designed to induce psychological trauma. Sarah's face grew pale as she read about the drastic and often brutal measures used to control the patients. With new information in hand, Ethan, Sarah, and Mike ventured deeper into the asylum. They passed through dilapidated hallways lined with rusted medical equipment and peeling wallpaper. Each room seemed to hold a story. Therapy rooms with old leather chairs, observation decks where doctors once watched their patients, and isolation cells that whispered of forgotten anguish. As they explored, Sarah noted the eerie feeling in certain areas, particularly where the air felt colder and the shadows seemed darker. Mike's drone flew through some of the larger rooms, capturing footage of the eerie, abandoned spaces, while Ethan recorded his observations and thoughts. Their exploration led them to the basement, where Sarah had earlier discovered a heavy iron door. The basement was a labyrinth of narrow corridors and forgotten rooms. Ethan's flashlight flickered as they descended the stairs, casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. In the basement, they found various medical instruments and old files scattered across the floor. One room contained a large, rusted operating table, still stained with faded traces of what might have been blood. The atmosphere was oppressive, and a sense of dread hung heavy in the air. Among the debris, Mike found a small room with an old mirror mounted on the wall. The mirror was heavily tarnished and covered in grime. As Ethan cleaned the glass, he was startled to see a figure in the reflection, a woman dressed in tattered clothing, her face etched with agony. Her hollow eyes seemed to pierce through the grime of the mirror. Ethan, Sarah, and Mike all turned to see if someone had entered the room, but the space was empty. The apparition's presence left them all feeling unsettled. Sarah suggested it might be a trick of the light or a result of the mirror's condition, but the eerie feeling lingered. As they continued their exploration, the strange occurrences intensified. Doors began slamming shut on their own, and the whispers they had previously dismissed grew louder and more distinct. The temperature in the basement dropped sharply, and their breaths became visible in the freezing air. Ethan's camera recorded the unsettling sounds and shadowy figures darting just out of sight. Sarah and Mike's nerves were on edge as they tried to rationalize the experiences, but the growing sense of being watched was impossible to ignore. The situation escalated when the group started hearing footsteps that seemed to follow them. The footsteps were irregular and erratic, sometimes quickening as if something was drawing closer. Ethan's flashlight beam flickered wildly, and the shadows on the walls began to twist and writhe. In a desperate attempt to escape, the trio ran through the labyrinthine basement. The passages seemed to shift, and the walls appeared to close in on them. Every turn seemed to lead them deeper into the maze. They finally came upon a door that led back to the main floor, but it was locked tight. As panic set in, Ethan, Sarah, and Mike searched for another way out. The whispers turned into a cacophony of tortured voices, and the temperature plummeted further. The cold seemed to seep into their bones, and the presence of something malevolent grew more palpable. They eventually found an emergency exit, which they managed to pry open. The frigid night air was a welcome relief as they burst out of the asylum, collapsing on the ground outside. The building loomed behind them, its dark windows seeming to watch their every move. As they caught their breath, Ethan, Sarah, and Mike reflected on their experience. They knew that what they had encountered was beyond their understanding. The asylum's dark history and the experiences they had just gone through had left them with a deep sense of foreboding. They reviewed the footage and notes they had gathered. The evidence was compelling. Distorted sounds, flickering lights, and the chilling image of the apparition. The trio decided to share their findings, but they also agreed that some mysteries were best left unexplored. The footage captured that night became a sensation online, captivating viewers with its raw and unsettling depiction of the paranormal. Ethan, Sarah, and Mike's accounts of their harrowing experience at Ravensbrook Asylum became part of the local legend, adding to the asylum's reputation as a place of dark and enduring mystery. The Ravensbrook Asylum stood silent once more, its history intertwined with the chilling tales of those who dared to uncover its secrets. The legends continued to grow as the asylum awaited the next brave or foolhardy soul to test its haunted halls.